I'd like to talk a little bit about the recent ridiculous smear stories in the UK press about Jeremy Corbyn being a communist spy. I have to say, I was absolutely flabbergasted by these stories. Of course, I wasn't amazed because about the UK press trying to smear a Labour leader with ridiculous stories because they've been doing that for decades. What I was amazed about is that the fact that they did it at all this time, because it's been clear for a while now, particularly since the last election, that smear stories against Corbyn are just not working. In fact, if anything, they're making him more popular. There are all kinds of reasons for that. Not least Corbyn himself um, is kind of pretty genuine person. Doesn't is not in hock to PR and makes him much less vulnerable to scare stories because even if you don't like him, he's clearly we all know what he believes and he's obviously genuine in what he believes. Um, and what amazed me was that the when it was clear that smear stories in general against Jeremy Corbyn were not working, I was curious as to what the UK press were going to do next. Because to be fair to them, they've been very, very good for decades at targeting particular groups of voters. I would say Conservative voters with a small c, because Conservative voters with a big C will vote Tory anyway. They've been very, very good at this kind of scaring voters, with smear stories. And now it was shown that it wasn't working well before these latest smear attempts. I was curious as to what new tactic they were going to use. And I was amazed that they came out with this particular smear story because clearly it shows that they haven't got any other tactic except to come out with even more ridiculous smear stories that no one believes. And what is really amazing about it is how, when it was clear that everyone was laughing at this particular smear story, Corbyn clearly has never been a communist spy. They continued digging, even when everyone was laughing. And I don't just mean lefties like me and probably most people watching this video, but everyone, all their target voters, and everyone was laughing about this. Clearly, they continued with this ridiculous story, digging themselves even deeper, making themselves look even more desperate and even more ridiculous, particularly the Telegraph, the Mail to a certain extent. But what I was most amazed about was the Sun. Newton Dunn from the Sun kept digging, kept coming out, kept trying to somehow prove that this story had some legs when it was clearly ridiculous and he should have just dropped it. Because the Sun has always been particularly good at targeting certain voters with fears and smears, and they have clearly lost it. They have had their finger on the pulse of certain groups of voters' concerns for a long time, and this recent ridiculous smears, show that they no longer have, it seems, their finger on the pulse of voters. And that's a really huge thing. And we saw, for example, Tory MP Ben Bradley, who's also vice chair of the Conservative Party, was sued, or he was threatened with legal action and had to pay a huge figure, a five-figure amount of money, which Corbyn donated to food bank and homeless charity in Bradley's own constituency, because Bradley repeated these ridiculous claims, on Twitter. The press themselves are much cleverer than a stupid Tory MP like Bradley. They got little tricks to cover themselves legally. They put the words in someone else's mouth and stuff like that. So they're probably pretty well covered legally. But I think ultimately the press will pay a much bigger price than Bradley had to pay. And the price that they will have to pay, or are paying, is with their credibility, with the voters they really have been able to target very successfully in the past. And as I said before, that's a huge thing, because this could mean we could be seeing the death throes of the influence of right-wing tabloid newspapers and their proprietors, basically, on UK politics. And, you know, amen to that.